Okay, horse friends. This here is Henry. So in some of our previous videos with Henry, we have talked about his anxiety. One of the places that his anxiety shows up is in our covered arena. And so in working with him, I did a lot of work on the ground with him, getting him over being so buddy sour and being just all over the place with his energy and his attitude and just in general his anxiety and everything, so that he could walk. You lead him, you can take him down the road and do different stuff in hand so that he can be better set up for riding, and ultimately over time have a lot of that anxiety reduced, if not gotten rid of. So now what I'm doing is in the round pen here, I first start out usually with lunging him before I tack him up, and then I'll lunge him again after tacking him up. And for him, it kind of varies on how much he really wants to go and everything, because I'll go 5-10 minutes. But if he's just kind of cruising along, doing walk, trot, canter, listening to what I say, then it'll be like 5-ish minutes each time, because he doesn't need a whole lot. It's just enough to get him to relax. And then here, I start riding him in the round pen, because this is where his confidence is the most, is out here in this pen. It's not super huge of an area, so he feels a little bit more comfortable, and then also it's outside, so he doesn't feel, as funny as it is to say that, it's a little bit more closed in, so he feels more comfortable, but at the same time, with the covered part of the indoor arena, horses can tend to feel more claustrophobic. So it's kind of a double thing for him, where it's not as closed in as a covered arena, but it's still a little bit more together, that if he has a flare-up of anxiety out here or goes too much and everything, there's not as much of a space for him to run, and it's just a little bit more together. It helps him, it helps his rider, and we can keep him going. So you see here, while I have my hand up, my reins are really loose. He's walking a little bit more forward than he has been, but there's a horse over to the side that he's kind of interested in. He's like, this is a really pretty horse. So he's kind of like, hello. So he's walking a little bit more forward, because this forward walk that he has right now is not an anxious walk. This is a show-off walk. He is trying to show off to that mare over there and be like, do I look good to you? Maybe. And that mare couldn't care less, really. So one of the things I look for when I'm riding him in the round pen is to see how relaxed he is. And if he is relaxed enough at the walk, at the trot, and the canter, that I can ride him on fairly loose reins, then I will take him into the covered arena, because that will be our best setup for success. So I am going to ask him into a trot here. He's probably going to be slightly forward. That's okay. It's not too bad, and I'm just going to ride him with it. I might slow my post down a little bit just to get him to relax. I might sit back a little bit more, or I might sit the trot, depending on what I feel he needs. But I'm going to do any or all of those options first before I really put any pressure on the reins. So that he knows, one, he can follow my seat, and I will keep him here. And two, he can go at a steady pace without me having to hang on to him. Because we don't want on any horse to have to just hang on to their face and hang on to their head and everything and always pulling on the reins when we're wanting them to relax their movement. Because at the end of the day, they're not actually learning to relax. You're just holding them back. So that was pretty good there with the trot. And I did have to add in a little bit of rein at the end there, because he just wanted to kind of keep trotting, but that's okay. He is a thoroughbred after all, so that's pretty common for them. So I'm going to ask him to trot again. And I just want to get a trot a little bit less than this without stopping completely. I want it just a little bit there. There we go. So I'm just looking for particular rhythm and cadence before we move on, and a consistency at that rhythm and cadence before we move on. So I know that he is, in fact, comfortable, relaxed, you know. And you'll notice, too, that I'm mostly having either pretty loose reins with both my hands, or I'll have one hand on the rein. Again, that just goes back to getting him used to just having less contact on him all the time, so he can get used to doing this. Good boy. Oh, good boy. And he listened to me right there. So we're going to change direction. And because he is a thoroughbred and he was on the track and he did race, when I do pick up in the canter here in a little bit, I like to start going along nicely and smoothly, and he's not too excited going to the left. Because even though he's been off the track for 10, 15 years, thereabouts, he still will have that in his mind and his memory that to the left, you go fast. You zoom. So, Henry, today actually, what I mentioned previously that I normally lunge him, then get him ready, then lunge him again. Today he actually graduated a little bit, and I did not lunge him before tacking him up. I just tacked him up and then did a little bit of lunge before getting on him because he's been showing himself to be really good in here. So as a little step up, I just stepped. You saw him speed up a little bit there. That was actually just him thinking that he's supposed to speed up when I was pushing him off my leg. So I'm going to add in a little bit of a rain bump here, just so that he's not so close to that rail. Now we're going to canter him here, and I'm just going to ride with it. He has a pretty neat canter. As long as he's not too excited, it's actually pretty easy to ride. And we just lost our balance there. So I'm going to let him get it back at the trot here, and then ask him back into that canter. Or we're going to walk. Okay, I guess we're going to walk. That was actually Henry saying, like, oh, I'm pretty good on all of this. So, and that's a good sign for him when he does that, because for him, when he's anxious, his thing is to just, for most horses, especially thoroughbreds, for anybody who knows off the track thoroughbreds, right, their thing is to run and run and run and run and run, even when they're tired, because it's just what they know. So when horses get anxious, they kind of fall back to what they do know. Thoroughbreds, they're more likely to just for this who do that. And for him and his training and his rehab with his anxiety and everything else, that is the main reason I did not just push him to keep going, because we want him to want to walk. We want him to want to just relax and chill and just cruise around, rather than push him to keep going, because that would not benefit him. Now, if you had a horse that was the opposite and their reaction is to not do anything or to be super lazy and barely move, then yeah, you would want to push them. But you have to mold whatever you're doing to what your horse needs and what is good for them, and ultimately make them successful and yourself successful, as well as any riders on that horse. So, pick him back up this way and do a little bit this way. He's losing his balance a little bit, so I'm going to kind of go and put a little bit more contact on him just to help him out, because he's kind of moving like a llama right now. Good boy. And there we go. So anytime we're working with these guys, right, they lose their balance, it's okay to come in and help them regain their balance. It is perfectly fine, and in reality, you should. You should always be helping your horse find their balance, reestablish where they are and what they need. So that's him in the round pen, and he's actually pretty quiet today, so I'm going to go take him into the arena here soon. So you guys will see a video on that, and I'll talk a little bit more about what we do in the arena for him. So thanks. No. Okay. Anyways. Yeah. Hi guys. Back in the arena here with Henry, and we're going to continue what we did out in the round pen that you saw in the previous video here. And you're going to see me mount him from the ground as you did in the round pen. And there's a couple of reasons for that for him, especially in here. One of it is this. As you can see, he gets a little movie. So even though I could get one of the portable mounting blocks and drag it around, I want him to understand that you have to stand for mounting, and you just wait, and you relax. And that's why I also just stand like this. I let him find his stop eventually. And I'll help him out a little bit if he doesn't find it too early, and I just wait here so that he gets the idea that I get on. I might shift around, I might do something, pet him all over, pat him, whatnot. But he needs to understand to wait for his rider to tell him what to do. And then the other reason I mount from the ground with this guy, particularly for the covered arena here, is that one of his reactions in his anxiety was one of the times I was getting on him. We have a nice mounting platform outside, you may have seen in our previous videos, is that he actually threw himself backwards. And we came along this way, and because of the area and everything, there was no safe place for me to get off yet, so I just kind of held on to him, held him as best I could and everything. He did turn a little bit, hit his head on the rail of one of our stalls here. He was okay. He got a little cut, but other than that, he was a little dizzy. But I hopped off of him once we got out there, and there was a little bit more space for me to do so safely and still maintain a hold on him. But because of that, I want to make sure that he is 100% comfortable and happy in here and wants to be in here. I almost want it where he's going to try to walk forward into the arena from that mounting block before we really start using it a lot on him. So part of his work is to get him to relax in here, and he's actually being really quiet right now, which is good. A lot of times he has a hard time standing still in here. So I'm just going to hang out with him for a little bit and let him just relax into just being in here. Because that's one of the other things, and one of the things I think too with any of you watching this that take lessons, right? This is some of the stuff we have to work with lesson horses. School horses at any program are not just start out like this. If they do, it is very rare, but a lot of horses have to learn how to be a school horse. They have to learn to be relaxed. They have to learn to just stand here and be patient and to wait. So I'm going to pet him a little bit, tell him he's a good boy, such a good boy, right? And I'm going to make it very exaggerated, all of the good things that he does, right? Especially for him, he really likes that attention. He really likes the praise. He likes scratches and just pleasing his person, his rider. So it's really helpful for him to receive that. Not every horse is like that. You have to kind of figure out what works for your horse. But for Henry here, this is what works for him. It's such a good boy. Get you are. Oh, look at that. So I'm going to go ahead and start walking him. So one of the things we do in here is we walk him towards the gate here, towards this area down here, so kind of towards you guys on the camera. And when I start picking him up in the trot, we'll trot him away because part of his anxiety also does have to do with wanting to go back home to his comfort, right? So we make it easier for him to understand that, nope, we just want you to just be chilling here. So anytime we're going to trot away, and then we're just going to walk relaxed and lightly back to the gate, back to home. So you can see he's already kind of speeding up his walk here. So I'm just going to put a little bit on. I'm going to close my thighs and get that similar walk back that he started with. And I might have to do that every once in a while and check in with him, and just every once in a while slow him down and say, hey, no, keep everything the same. The most consistent of the walk that you can do, that's what we want. Consistency is the main thing here, right? We want quality over quantity. So if I can get a quality walk, for only a quarter of the arena, then I will work on that quarter of the arena on that quality of a walk, right? And in this case, the quality here is his relaxation. Now, I know I can go all the way around and just have a little bit of speed up like this part of it, but he listens pretty well. And then you can see on the open side, he's very much interested in anything that might be out there. There's nobody outside right now, but there's stuff out there, and there's just all kinds of other things, right? Now, I'm going to go ahead and change him direction. And just walk the other way. Good boy. There, he had a thought. I gave him a little bit of a leeway there. I didn't quite correct him, but I just said, hey, think about it first, right? Because we want to allow our horses to make mistakes too. If we are always constantly keeping our horses from making mistakes, they're also not going to learn. And two, if they're not able to make mistakes and everything, they're going to have a hard time when that happens, because they're going to make mistakes. And if we're constantly trying to keep them from happening, we're not going to progress. They're not going to progress. They're not going to be able to think for themselves and get themselves out of situations that you might not be able to help them through. So something as simple as this, and now he's getting a little bit antsy, so I'm going to actually stop him here, let him find his relaxation, and I'm going to lend him some of my confidence. I'm going to lend him some of my calm, right? And by doing this, I'm petting him, I'm scratching his withers with my other hand. You can't really see it, but I got a little scratch there. He gave a big sigh. Now, he hasn't quite relaxed yet, but he is thinking about it. But I'm just going to say, hey, we can just be relaxed here. We can just chill, right? And this is the furthest point away from where he lives that he goes when he's working and doing stuff here. So I'm just going to, there we go. Good boy. So there, even though he only took a couple of steps back because he has a previous issue and a history of going backwards, I just sit up and I just bump the reins to make sure that he is there all the way, so that I know he's not going to have a panic attack or try to go somewhere else. So I'm just going to circle him here because he got a little worried about something in this corner. So we're just going to circle, good boy. There you go. And let him know that it's okay, right? And for all the things that worry him, I will say that I am glad that the pigeons aren't one of them, because there's a lot of pigeons here. So that's a good thing, that the birds don't really seem to bother him, which is always good. And then he's got his head up again. He's kind of walking forward. And he's getting worried about something. Good boy. It's okay. So today, too, he's a little bit more nervous this side and going this direction than he has been previously. Good boy. Good boy, just again. And I think that's because in some of the previous working with him in here, there's been other horses. So he's had a little bit of a reliance on some of the other school horses that he doesn't quite have today. So he has a little bit more of himself to rely on. He still has me and there's a couple other people, but he doesn't have the stability of a calm and relaxed horse. Good boy. I don't know what you did there, but again. Okay, let's go back to that part. Let's think it through. Them pesky birds. And I just was saying how you don't generally care about the birds. That's okay. You were focused on something else, so. And so that was there too, right? I didn't get overly reacted. I just made sure that I was balanced enough to stay with him, because something else that's not always considered with horses, with people and everything, is that if a person comes off, a horse can lose their confidence as well. It's not often talked about a lot. I feel like sometimes it's overlooked, good boy. But when a horse loses their rider, right, the horse can lose their confidence and get worried about that happening. So making sure that I was just staying with him, but not getting worried myself, even though he was kind of wiggling and everything. I know my seat. I know I can handle a little bit more than that he gave there and everything, so I wasn't worried about it. But that is one thing, as we work with horses like this, even if we are worried, we have to kind of put our own worry off to the side, not bury it. We have to acknowledge that we might have fear or reservations ourselves, because if we ignore our own feelings, that can cause problems as well. So we acknowledge it, but we learn how to work through it and use it to our advantage, right? Because being cautious about something like this isn't for no reason, right? We're being cautious, whether it's a horse that's a steady Eddie, or a horse like Henry, or one that's, a bucking bronco. It's self-preservation. We, as a people, as a human race, want to kind of keep ourselves alive. Usually, there are some people that might be more inclined to have some fun more than others, but so acknowledging those reservations and fears that we might have, to allow ourselves to feel it and then work through it to help our horse, is important. Now he's gotten distracted by some people behind him. I'm going to see if he'll kind of just relax through it, and he did. So I'm going to tell him a good boy. Now he still knows they're there, and he's still a little focused on them, but he didn't overly focus. I'm going to go ahead and pick him up on a trot. I'm going to sit the trot first, because he's kind of going a little bit. And now I'm coming around here, and you saw he kind of stopped on his own there because he's towards the gate. So I'm going to pick him up again, and I'm going to go a little bit further down this rail. And he's worried here, so that's okay. I'm not going to rush him past any point that he is worried, right? Because it goes back to getting their confidence. If we rush a horse past an area that they're worried about, they're going to learn to kind of run past things that scare them, right? And we don't want that. Good boy. So I'm going to keep him trotting this way. And then about here, I'm going to have him just walk. And I actually like that I'm having to push him a little bit into that trot, even though he has a forward walk and he's a little bit worried about some stuff. Good boy. That was a good release. Even though he is a little bit worried, I'm letting him tell me when he wants to walk and allowing him to do so, because as I mentioned when we were in the round pen, for him, that is something that we want. We want that relaxation. We want that comfort. So the other day I worked him, I actually did canter him in here, and I cantered him down at the far end. But because he's a little bit more anxious today, I will not be picking up the canter, because I know that will set him up for failure. So the other day when I did canter him, I decided that I was going to do it at the far end of the arena on a circle. So if you can see down there, it's a decent amount of space, and then on a circle I can keep it a little bit more contained, so if he decided to kind of go too much, I can be like, nope, that's not what we want. And he did try that. The first canter we picked up and we were circling around, he actually tried to go straight and speed up a little bit, and so I just turned him a little bit harder, a little bit tighter of a circle, and said, nope, you have to stay here. And we worked through it, and we cantered both ways. And then, like I said, I am not going to canter him here today because he's a little bit too anxious, and I don't want him getting in his mind that when he gets anxious like this, he speeds up. That will set him back and set him and future riding up for failure rather than success. So I'm going to keep working him at a walk here. And if I can and I feel like he can handle it, I might trot a little bit more. But ultimately, I want to be able to ride him with his head relaxed where I'm here and he is not speeding up, right? So you saw he kind of quickened his pace a little bit. It's not too bad, but I just want it a little bit more relaxed than he's giving right now. So that's just some of the work that we do with Henry here and getting him ready to be ridden. And he has given a lesson in the round pen because you saw he is really comfortable in there and he does well. So he can be worked there. So he's starting slowly to get some of his lesson work in and learning what it is to be a school horse and what we look for and what we want from our horses in our lesson program. So thank you for watching.